Hey, Steve Mignani here. Before we get to our junkyard crawl video for today, just a heads up, on October 1st, if you're in the Durant, Oklahoma area, I'll be there live at Spanky Assiter's inaugural Freedom Choctaw Collector Car Auction at the Choctaw Casino and Resort Event Center, again in Durant, Oklahoma, where a whole bunch of cool collector cars are going to get sold, many of them at no reserve. And I'll be on the stage live doing commentary. One of the best cars and most special cars in that event is going to be the actual 58 Chevrolet Impala, fully restored, that was once owned by Peggy Sue Gerron. Yes, that Peggy Sue, the star of several Buddy Holly songs. Pretty, pretty, pretty Peggy Sue. That was her 58 Impala. That car is going to get sold at no reserve, again, on October 1st at the inaugural Freedom Choctaw Collector Car Auction in Durant, Oklahoma, October 1st. Be there if you want to take a shot at that car and just check out a great auction. Okay, let's get right into the junkyard crawl here at Bernardston Auto Wrecking. Hey, Steve Mignani here doing the junkyard crawl at Bernardston Auto Wrecking in Bernardston, Massachusetts with a 1969 Ford Torino GT hardtop. Now, we all remember that the Torino could be had as a station wagon, a four-door, a convertible two-door, the fastback, and this hardtop. Now, here's the thing. Most folks, again, remember the Torino, and this is Car Life magazine, January 1969, with a nice comparison of the budget supercars. It's like a 340 Dart, 428 Torino, 383 Roadrunner. How cool is that back in the day? And again, January of 69 when these cars were all brand new. And here's the Ford Torino ad. We can see in the top, the burgundy car, that's the Cobra Sports Roof or Fastback. And right below it is the Cobra Hardtop. And again, the difference in the roof line is obvious right there. Of course, bottom right, Torino GT Sports Roof. And those C stripes were seen on the Fastback. Meanwhile, if you saw a Torino hardtop with these white stripes down here, that meant GT. And these things were seen on full-sized Fords and, of course, Mustangs. These were used on all Ford Torino and Fairlane GTs from 1966 right on up to 69. And these were inspired by the 65 Shelby Mustang GT350's rocker stripes. So they were so popular that Ford trickled it over to all of their performance cars. Now, as a GT Torino, this would have had 14-inch rally-type wheels, wide oval tires, a hood scoop, and at the very least, a 302 under the hood. Now, there's nothing here right now, but before we move on to the VIN to learn what engine this thing had, let's look at this. The front suspension here does have big 10-inch drum brakes. Discs were not standard on the GT. That was $65 more. But we notice here the coil spring on top of the upper control arm, a classic Ford item. Good ride, but the downside is on the other side of the fender wall, these things, these monstrous spring towers in which those springs live. Of course, the shock absorber lives in the middle. Trouble with these is if you put any kind of a big block, you have about 1/10 of an inch on either side to space the engine. Of course, when Ford did the Boss 429 Mustang in 1969, which had similar underpinnings, they actually had to utilize scalloped spring towers that had a curve built into them, and putting a 427 Cammer in one of these things, pretty much impossible. Not that anybody would do it unless you were going match racing. But again, this one here, was a GT. At one point, there was a faux hood scoop right here on top, part of the GT package. It was standard. And we look at the VIN to learn more. Okay. You can kind of see it. There's a little bit of frost on this, so I've written it down. It says 9H44F161694. 9 is 1969. H, Lorain, Ohio Assembly. 44, GT hardtop. And that's the beauty of it. The VIN tells you if it's a GT or just a regular Fairlane or Torino with stripes added. Nope, this is an actual GT hardtop. So those white stripes along the bottom are factory, as is this medium green paint. Now, inside, well, we'll change spaces, Shane, but you see right there the steering column, that stick on the right-hand side of it, yeah, column automatic. Okay, so that's kind of a bummer. It's not a 4-speed, not even a 3-speed manual. It is an automatic car, probably a C4. And it's kind of weird. It has a 3 on the tree or a tree through the 3 or whatever. Somebody sliced out the original transmission tunnel here. I thought at first maybe it was a 4-speed car, but again, automatic car. And this, because it was a GT, it had bucket seats and a center console. So for whatever reason, somebody probably sliced out the original tunnel because it had mounts welded to it for a console. or somebody hot rodded this thing and had a 4-speed or 3 on the floor at some point. But this is not Ford's work right here, this chop. But with that said, this was an automatic car. And about that 302, that F-code engine, that would be the 302 Windsor 2-barrel. Not a very exciting engine. The problem with that, it's not a Bosch 302, very different thing. The Bosch 302, of course, came along in 1969 with canted valve heads, 290 horse, solid lifters, Holley 4-barrel aluminum intake. The 302 2-barrel, the F-code, was basically a station wagon engine. So it was, but it was the base engine. You couldn't get a 6 in a Torino GT. So at least it was somewhat sporty with that 302 V8. But something we see here are shoulder-mounted harnesses right here, the 3-point harness. These things arrived in January of 1969. And of course, shoulder harnesses protect you from spinal cord separation, which can be a problem with nothing but lap belts. When you just have lap belts on a car, what can happen is your pelvis can be separated from your rib cage, so to speak, in an impact from the front. So again, a 3-point harness is something that was new for 69 standard equipment and seen here. So yeah, let's go up here some further. And again, this is the hard top body, not the sports roof or fastback. And in fact, sales on these things was 17,495, and roughly 4 times as many fastback Torino GTs were sold. So again, these were actually not as loved by the public. And I got to say, if I was buying myself a Torino GT in 1969, I think I'd want the fastback. The only downside to the fastback was that it had a very small trunk. By contrast, the Torino hardtop has a massive trunk, this massive space right in here. Now, the only bummer about Ford Torinos and Mustangs of this period of time is that the trunk floor is the top of the gas tank. And this right here, that's the gas tank that we're looking at. It's full of water right there. Now, the gas tank actually fits into a trough, like a little sort of dropout area, and then bolts down. And that's the trunk floor. Now, the only problem is, let's say you have a dead battery on your other car. You throw the battery in the trunk, go to the parts store to get it charged or replaced. Go around a corner, that battery flips over, those 2 posts, positive and negative, wind up on top of the trunk floor or the top of the gas tank, and they start welding a hole. Once they arc out and create a hole, you've got yourself a fire. So it's kind of weird to think that Ford used the gas tank as the trunk floor. But keep in mind, with the vinyl trunk mat in place, likelihood of that happening was pretty minimal. But in the hands of the second or third owner, a lot of these things burned up because of falling batteries on the way to the parts store. So that's the story of 1969 Ford Torino GT. You could get a 428 or a 390 in this thing as an option, but if you got the Torino Cobra, that was automatically a 428. This ain't that, but again, that white rocker stripe right there, first seen on the 65 Shelby GT350 Mustang. Because of its popularity there, Ford used it on everything, including Galaxy 500 XL GTs, which also in full-size mode had that rocker stripe right there. It was kind of like Ford's version of the Dodge Scat Pack tail stripe, or the Z28 hood and tail stripe, same idea. Back in the 60s when stripes made a supercar. Well, if you like this video, be sure to subscribe to the Steve Maggs YouTube channel, and we'll be back tomorrow with yet more from Ferguson Auto Records.